Hey guys, I'm Mario Flores, and this is going to be my film ethics analysis on Y tu mamá también. I decided to title this Road to Truth because I think this is a film that can be seen as a very simple story, but has some serious undertones that I would love to talk about. Let's go to the next slide. So to give you guys some more information, the film was directed by Alfonso Cuarón, and it was written with his brother, Carlos Cuarón, as well as the DP was Emmanuel Lubezki, and the cast features Gael Garcia Bernal, Diego Luna, and Maribel Verdu. If we look at the screen right here, we can see Diego Luna as well as Gael. These are two Mexican actors, as well as this is a Mexican film. This film was produced, or not produced, well, it was produced. It was directed and fully done in Mexico, and it is only in Spanish. The reason I chose this film is because this is my first Mexican film as a film student. I've seen Mexican films before, and I've watched Mexican media before, but when it comes to watching this as a film student, I feel like this is a different approach for me, just because I'm looking at this at a different lens. I'm looking at this with all the new skills I've learned from filmmaking, as well as all the ethical, um, I wouldn't say dilemmas, but all the new knowledge I've gained from this, as well as to give you a little bit more context, or just some fun facts. Diego Luna is actually a pretty popular actor still. He was in Andor for Star Wars, and Gael is still an actor as well. Um, but I want to talk to you about the historical and cultural context. I feel like this film really is part of the new Mexican cinema wave, as well as it can be compared to like Amores Perros, just because this film is very raw and it's politically challenged, and also just because of the documentary style. But let's go to the next slide. So this is where I could tell you guys a bit more about the film. The story is actually pretty simple. It's gonna follow two Mexican teens going on a road trip. On this road trip, they invite a Spaniard lady who's married. Her name is Luisa, and it pretty much ties in with sexuality, social hierarchy, as well as a lot more. I feel like I can talk about that more in the other slides. But that's pretty basic story, I would say. Pretty basic just synopsis on the story. But just to give you a little bit more information, both of these actors or both of these main characters have different social hierarchies. So like Danoc is really rich, and what's his name? Julio, sorry, I didn't mean to say what's his name. Julio is middle class. So he's not poor, but he's not rich, as well as this does matter just because throughout the film we do see them learn about like poverty as well as how people live amongst this road trip. I would say this film feels really raw and just like authentic just because of the handheld style that this film takes. It's gonna be a lot of long pans as well as the camera work is really nice. One thing I really like about this film is just because it makes you feel like you're watching something through a window. Like to give you an example, you're not really doesn't feel like you're being told something. It feels like you're unraveling the story as you're watching it. Um, One thing that I really like that this film takes is from French New Wave, is we have a third person narrator that goes on throughout the film that pauses in between scenes. These scenes are typically done within when something political is about to happen or something that dramatic just happened. And it's pretty dramatic and it interrupts the flow of the movie, but I feel like it plays a really good role just because it kind of dives deeper onto the movie as well as it kind of ties the movie all together. And it really does tie the movie all together towards the ending of the film. We can go next. This is going to be the aesthetics of the film. I wanted to include this just to give you guys a bit of like context. As we can see right here, this is Luisa. I'm gonna play this for a few seconds just so we can see it. And this is also my favorite scene.
Extraño más que nunca y me estoy a hacer.
I'll lower the volume a little bit just so I can talk over it. But as you can see, it's gonna be really authentic when it comes to just the color grade as well as the like camera work. As we can see, there's not anything crazy when it comes to camera work, as well as it's just feels raw. I don't know how to explain it even further, but it's just so intimate that you feel like you're there. Um, as we can see both actors and actress, dancing together. This will go further into my point where we talk about sexuality. Um, but if we go to the next slide, I could talk about that more. So why did I pick this film and why do I think it's important? One thing that I think is really important is the class and privilege. So Julio and Tinoch, it does show in the beginning of the film like the differences between the elites as well as the middle class. One thing I really like is throughout this road trip, we can see the wealth disparity throughout all of Mexico. So we can see people in villages, we can see people on beaches, how they live, as well as like how how much how much of a disparity there is or how much of a gap there is between people when it comes to money as well as one of the main things that I feel like that this film is pretty popular for is its sexuality. I feel like this film doesn't ask or it doesn't really speak upon it. It's kind of like an undertone when it comes to it. It doesn't question sexuality. It invites you into a conversation per se, as well as one thing that I also would like to say is like this film doesn't this film doesn't openly tell you what to think or how to feel when it comes to sexuality. It treats sexuality as a fluid thing. It doesn't treat it as it's supposed to be boxed in into these categories that are like, um, yeah, let me go to the next slide. There's more stuff I wrote down, but I feel like what I'm talking about is a bit more important. Um, this is when we go into what makes this film like ethical as well as what challenges and contributions it does. So I already talked about this, but one thing I really liked is how throughout the film, a lot of the footage is handheld and the cinematography doesn't feel forced or doesn't feel glamorized. One thing I really like is that there are a lot of sex scenes throughout this film, but when it comes to sex scenes, I feel like to give you an example, we could talk about Euphoria. Euphoria is over-sexualized and glamorized when it comes to its sex scenes. But when this film does sex scenes, it's kind of a bit more raw and intimate, as well as it doesn't try to, how do I say it? It doesn't try to make it a performance. It just captures it. As well as one thing I really liked about the film is, if you guys didn't know, all the actors throughout the film would receive the scripts on the day of shooting. So everything that they would be feeling was a bit more authentic, as well as it's a lot more spontaneous. One other thing is I wanted to know is Luisa's character. She's a complex woman and she has a complex character. I feel like that's one thing I really liked about the film, just because the agency within women in film is I feel like typically women are not sorry, I'm like hiccuping. Um, I feel like women are usually put down in films or they're undermined when it comes to their roles as well as specifically when there's sex scenes. I feel like one thing I really liked about this film is how she's the one in charge and how she's steering the wheel when it comes to this. Like she understands that these boys just want to have sex with her, and she knows that what she's doing is wrong, or what I don't know if you would consider it is considered wrong, but yeah, let's go next. Let's talk about why this film is important for me. I feel like one thing I really took away from this film is that when you're going to be capturing sex scenes or capturing anything that's going to be ethical, I feel like it's important to not over sexualize or over glamorize the cinematography. So one thing I liked about this class is actually that we talked about a lot of the Ukrainian war. To give you an example, I really liked for militant troops. or Wolf Letters of Wolf Street. I really liked how those films, when they came to cinematography, they wouldn't be over glamorizing these war scenes or poverty. Um, when it comes to Y tu mamá también, we see mu a bunch of like a bunch of poor people, a bunch of people like living in different conditions, as well as we get to see the wealth disparity throughout Mexico. We get to see super rich people, super poor people, people in the middle. And I feel like when it comes to filmmaking, it's really important to not over glamorize this, especially when you're doing a documentary style film. But if you're trying to be speaking about something that's important, it's important to not over sexualize or over glamorize it. I'm not trying to use the same words, but I feel like it's important to keep a film true to its nature if you're trying to be serious about it. One other thing I really liked is withholding the full picture from your cast. Um, I feel like it'd be really cool if I did a film like that, just because every performance would be authentic and everything is a bit more spontaneous. Yeah, we'll be doing a few more takes, but I feel like it makes the performance a lot more real. Let's go next. When it comes to the legacy and just its like the film, so on premiere, the film actually had 90% on Rotten Tomatoes and won Best Screenplay at Venice, as well as got an Oscar nomination for Best Original Screenplay. This is a I'm gonna be honest, it's a pretty remarkable film. It's an Academy film, as well as it is gonna be a cult classic when it comes to like queer cinema. I'm not queer myself, but I feel like it's really important. And also, I do love its ethical nuance on sexuality. I think from within 30 to 50 years now, I believe this film is still going to be talked about just because of its ethical dilemmas as well as its wealth disparity that is shown, as well as how prominent it is when it comes to its storytelling. But yeah, thank you guys. This is my presentation. These are my sources as well as my citations. I hope you enjoyed. I really hope you guys watch this film. It is really beautiful, and I think you can really take a lot from it. Thank you.